Okay. For this I'm using Lucas Red and Tacky number 2 grease. This will probably be a little too much in the colder months. I talked to Ryan Thompson at Thompson Racing Fabrication when I was doing this, because like I said before, he serviced these for me last time just because he had the car. I had not done it before, and I figured he could knock it out a lot faster than I could. So I called him. I'm like, hey, what grease did you use for this? He said, I usually just use axle grease, but that Red and Tacky will probably work fine in the summertime, but in the winter when it's cold out, it might be a little too stiff. It could actually have an impact on how your dampers feel. It could make the ride a little stiff because the grease is so viscous. But it should be fine for now. I'm going to be servicing these again before it gets cold, one way or the other. Because realistically, you should be doing this after every event. And I might do a follow-up or do this again and show you just how nasty these things get between fresh, like they're going to be, and one event's worth of dirt and grime and grease. So I'm just doing one last wipe down of everything. Then just grab some and lube it up. Realistically, should be doing that in there, but I suspect most of this will stay in there once we insert this to the mount. I'm going to throw some inside here. I should have done this first. So obviously you can't reach all the way down there. Alright, some of this wiped off. And then reassemble. Oh yeah, don't forget your bearing. I probably should have went in first. Wipe the excess off. Should probably wipe the rod off too before we jam this bad boy back on there. Haha. Let's put the springs on first too, since you know all of those go on before. So once again, try to keep it all clean. top spring. Middle perch, now the smooth side goes on top, the one with the ribs on it goes on the bottom, because that helper spring is a little bit narrower than the main spring. Yeah, that looks better. And your retainer. Special tool. Now the fun part is trying to get this thing to align with the holes. I'm sure the correct tool makes this easier because it's probably just the right diameter. There we go, engaged, I think. Nope, yeah? I don't know, we'll see. I think it is. Alright, get it as tight as you can, because it's all greased up now. And now you probably will want to switch back to your regular work gloves. Throw the lid on your grease so you don't contaminate that. Give this a little rub down so you can get some of the grease off of it that you don't need. Gumming up your gloves and everything. And then don't forget your bump stop. I don't think it really matters which end goes which. I'll put the big end on the bottom. And then the body cap. Now this is where having this all lubed up comes in handy, because you can actually screw this on without having the strut rod coming through. If you remember when we disassembled this, we had to twist that strut rod while we were taking it apart. But during reassembly, you don't need to do that. Snug that up. Give it a whack or two. And then push it back down until it engages the square part of the strut rod. Which doesn't want to do right now for some reason. Alright, I'm going to take that back off. Set this on the ground. There we go. You heard that little click that went through that time. So then you put the lock nut back on. Tighten it up. And then readjust your perches. See, this is how smoothly they should run on the threaded part. See, we're getting into one of the spots that I cleaned the threads up, so it's not as smooth. But it's not terrible. Much better than it was taking it apart. So I'll set this spring height better when it's on the car, and I may need to get some different springs because this is so high that I think this will push the ride height up a ton in the back. When I pulled these off of the car, the spring drooped a few inches, and that might not be a problem because the rear suspension needs to be limited on this car, just because of the geometry of it all. Alright, so my springs are snug, and that's really all you need. You don't want these to bounce around and come off the perches when this is at full droop. But like I was saying, full droop for this shock is much longer than full droop for the rest of the suspension, so I'm going to have to set the spring height on the car once I get there. And you see this here, that little wiry looking thing? That is aluminum from that jam nut, because I ran it over some galled threads in here. So you can wear these out by running them over, because the body is steel, and these perches and jam nuts, or whatever you want to call them, adjusters, are aluminum. So they'll get eaten up by galled threads real quick. So let's see if we can find where it was catching. And then you're going to want to give this a rub down, get all the excess grease out of there. Oh yeah, the adjuster. So I lost the set screw on this, so I'm going to have to find that, or find a replacement. But don't forget to put that back on and tighten your set screw. Otherwise you're just going to be spinning the knob down there. You can spin your spring and make sure you get as much of it off as you can. Because the other thing is, if this is over greased like it is right now, it'll just collect tons of dust and dirt. And then as this compresses and expands, it's just going to run all that dirt inside, which is where a lot of it comes from anyway. So do a fairly decent job wiping this up. Just trying to get this little public service announcement out there, because I know some people, personally, I'm not going to name any names, they don't service their coilovers as frequently as they probably should, and they're going to regret it the first time they actually have to get into them. So just make it a habit of doing this. It's not terribly time consuming, and the more you do it, the better you'll be at it. the more efficient you'll become in this periodic maintenance. Alright, so there you have it. This this bad boy is ready to jump. And then also, while you've got it out of the car, make sure you check your fasteners that hold the top plate together. I already went through and pulled these all out, run them on the wire wheel, blue Loctite, tighten them back up, and then the strap mounts, or these mounting bolts, make sure they're run up all the way. And you know, just a general visual inspection, checking things out. I know these have been rubbed on a few times, so there's a couple spots where they might be a little weak, but they'll be alright. My springs are getting pretty beat up, so it's not going to really affect the performance. I just have to keep an eye on it. And like I said, I'll probably be getting some new springs anyway, because I don't like the way these fit on here. So that's it. Like I said, this one's ready for action again. And then just do it to the other three. They're pretty much exactly the same. If you got any questions, you can leave them in the comments, and I will do my best to either answer them or send you someplace where you can get the answers. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time here at Dexter's Laboratory.